This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Come hang with Bumper to Bumper's Justin Guard at Tom's Watch Party in Minneapolis next Thursday at 8:30 for a KFAN Wolves Watch Party. We'll have Timberwolves versus Grizzlies live on the big screens, delicious food and drinks, and your chance to secure exclusive KFAN swag and a chance to qualify for Wolves season finale tickets. Get all the details now at KFAN.com /calendar.
See you, bud. There goes Chad Greenway. 5-2 radio. Covenant catch-up time. Covenant catch-up time for the co-host. He was gone a long time. And this is the Friday football feast, something that started in 2009, and here we are in 2025, 20 days from the National Football League draft. The Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Brooklyn Elves last night. There was a weird moment during the course of the game. Julius Randle went knee to knee with an L. And
I'm in the finals against Rick Kamla in my fantasy basketball league with Randy Shaver, and we've got Randall.
Nordo made the Final Four and got bumped.
Did he?
Yeah, by the coach.
By the coach.
Yeah, Nordo did a really good job this year. So Julius
I needed Randall to come back. So I'm watching that game very, very closely. Unfortunately, he did.
He left for a little bit. So just as Julius Randle returns from the locker room after banging knees with an overmatched net, well, then Ant goes down in a heap in front of the Nets bench, had to be helped off by multiple people to get back to the locker room. It turned out to be an ankle injury. And then I'm like, well, this whole thing, because like the next play, the Wolves had the ball, and then Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle basically were like Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. And there's this beanpole named Nick Claxton.
He's good.
And they just plowed through him, and it was a lot worse live than it was when you watch the replay. And actually, I think the foul, went to Claxton.
Yeah, but and it should have, by the way. That was some serious acting.
But the visual, when you saw it, I'm like, we're going pear-shaped. This whole thing's going pear-shaped right now. Ant is having to be escorted to the locker room. Randall just got back from the locker room. And now Kelly and Fries are plowing through bean poles who don't even play in the NFL, which seemed to be kind of an emotion of frustration with what they were going through. But all that ended up being overrated. And Ant came back, and DiVincenzo and Randall ended up being fine. So they beat the Brooklyn Nets. And somewhere later during the course of this hour, we'll get you caught up on Memphis winning at the buzzer, John Morant, gun signs, being admonished by the league. Golden State Warriors won at the Lakers. We got the disease play-in with which we're dealing. Wilder at the Islanders tonight. That's on KFAN. We own the final wild card spot, 5 clear of Calgary. The Blues, the St. Louis Blues, I think they won every game in the elongated time you were in Utah. They've won 11 in a row. So we're the Blues have won 11 in a row. They passed us this week for the top wild card spot. Wild have 6 remaining, Blues 5, Flames 7. It's also tenuous right now, but this is the Friday football feast. the moves while you were gone. Ryan Kelly and Will Fries here. Justin School, offensive lineman, 17. He'll assuming Darisaw does not begin the season because of the ACL and MCL. Justin School, 17 starts and 5 in 2024 with the Buccaneers. Darisaw Insurance, O-line Insurance. Also added, and there are more here, but I'm wheeling through these for now. Running back Jordan Mason, wide receiver Rondale Moore, wide receiver Tim Jones. Defensive tackle, Jonathan Allen. Defensive lineman, Jonathan Allen. Defensive lineman, tackle, Javon Hargrave. Former Viking, former Packer, now current Viking, inside linebacker, Eric Wilson. Isaiah Rodgers, cornerback. He was suspended a couple of years ago for gambling, won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia. What was interesting about this, the Charchie?
I'm glad you paused on Isaiah Rodgers because I feel like that's the best signing that I think people aren't talking about, but I don't know for sure because I was away for 6 weeks or something. He was the Colts' best, if you rewind the clock, 2023.
Yeah, 2022, maybe. I think he was out.
Yes, correct, exactly. He missed 2020. 2022, he was the Colts' best young cornerback. Mm-hmm. He had, every year he had gotten better. He was their top guy. And then he gambled on sports and lost a whole year. The cuts.
He bet a Jonathan Taylor prop.
Yeah, oops.
On the same team.
You might not want to do that.
And he hit it.
Did he hit the prop?
I think he hit the prop.
Oh, God.
But he hit the prop, lost the season.
That seems like bad financial advice.
Bad trade. Very bad trade.
And then the Colts, I think stupidly, took the moral high ground and just cut him outright, Isaiah Rodgers. And I'm like, he's really good. You might not want to cut him. You might just want to get him back after a year. Yep. And instead they cut him. Then last year he goes to the Eagles. He's effectively their fourth cornerback, but got him on the field enough to show that the kid can still play.
Yes, sir.
He looked good. He allowed only a 50% catch rate last year with the Eagles. And he's one of these really slight of build, undersized cornerbacks, but he plays super physical. He gets in your face. He can tackle. He is going to prove to be an incredibly important signing, Isaiah Rodgers, and he kind of got lost in the shuffle of the big names we already knew, like Hargrave and Allen, and there's cornerback was the most important position of need heading into this offseason, and he was a starter who got signed and will play regularly, and he's going to prove to be really important for this team.
I have two things off everything you just said. This is the Friday Football Feast. I'm Paul Allen. Clearly, the co-host is Field Yates.
I always love that
one.
And
the two things that you did not add there because you were on vacation for a month and change, so you may have missed it or you may not have thought it out this way. First, Isaiah Rodgers. Okay, it's not a massive deal. It's not a big
2 years.
It's more than a prove it deal, but it's not a massive deal.
Yep.
I mean, it took the Vikings all of 90 minutes on the first day of free agency to be like, hey, we got Milton Williams here and this guy here and this big name there. Isaiah Rodgers? So they identified him early and didn't want to deal with any of the rigmarole. And now I believe Kevin O'Connell shared this at the owners' meetings because I saw it via, I think, a Ben Gessling tweet recently. Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, he's not predicting this, but he's looking for him and thinks Isaiah, different position, but has a chance to be this year's Zach Bond.
Oh,
the cat for Philadelphia. Came from New Orleans.
Was awesome.
He was empowered. They built his confidence. They gave him opportunity. And then he went out and, he stayed with the Eagles, but he got himself a big fat deal.
He did.
So I've heard that a little bit, and I'm pretty sure Kevin O'Connell mentioned that at the owners' meetings.
And probably not a coincidence that Rodgers was an Eagle. Mm-hmm. And if the Eagles had more money, I think they would have loved to have kept Rodgers, and they've moved on from some of their older cornerbacks. But I don't think they had the money to keep him. And the Vikings swooped in, and I think this is going to prove to be dollar for dollar. I think the Isaiah Rodgers signing will be the best signing for the money. Because I think it's 2 years, $15 million, as opposed to the $30 million guys that were like Hargrave and Allen. I think he's going to be dollar for dollar the best signing they had.
And they also added Jeff Okudah, formerly, I think, third overall by the Lions, played like 5 games his first 2 years, injuries, bounced all over the place, but Jeff Okuda is also in the mix. Now, when we return, let's marathon it when we return and make a dealer's choice for Paul Charchian. There's more to add in context with this, and the dealer will be Paul Charchian, and we'll play whatever card he wants to play. Next segment will be our marathon segment, courtesy of Steve's Appliances and stevesappliances.com. We're feasting on a Friday on K.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
KFAN.
Hit the court and parlay for KFAN's Timberwolves Watch Party with host Zach Halverson on the Power Trip Morning Show. Catch the Timberwolves on the big screens as they face off against Brooklyn on April 11th at 8 p.m. Party with free food, prizes, and more. Get all of the details now at KFAN.com keyword calendar.
The great Jim Peterson, speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, while watching the game last evening, had a terrific line. I put it on Twitter. Grady said, you know, the Nets are in the Eastern Conference, so the Timberwolves play the Nets twice during the year. Last night was the first game against the Nets. You just heard Kara talk about the next game in the watch party. So within the course of a week and change, they're going to play an Eastern Conference team very late in the season, the Brooklyn Nets, 2 times. Mm-hmm. To which Jim Peterson's deadpan response was, well, by that time, our fans actually may know who's on their team or know their names.
I always love that.
There's some truth to that.
That was absolutely brilliant.
I last night I Googled Nick Claxton to see if he was related to Speedy, because I'm like, they have to be related, right?
I did the same thing with Cam Johnson for the Nets to see if he was related to Magic.
Yeah, or Larry.
Yeah, or Larry.
Yeah, right.
And what'd you find?
Not related.
No Nick?
You would think, how many Claxtons could be in the NBA? Turns out there's 2 totally different ones.
Into the Covenant, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, offensive lineman, Justin School, offensive lineman, running back Jordan Mason, Rondale Moore, wide receiver Tim Jones, defensive lineman Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, linebacker Eric Wilson, cornerback Isaiah Rodgers. The team traded Ed Ingram to Houston. Patrick Jones is now a Panther. Cam Bynum's now a Colt. Daniel Jones also is now a Colt. Sam Darnold a Seahawk. Nick Mullins a Jaguar. Trent Sherfield Sr. a Bronco. Harry the Hitman brought back for year 14. Covenant claps. Harry the Hitman.
Yeah, that's going to be
bound.
I'm glad he's coming back again.
Year 14 for Harrison Smith. They brought back Byron Murphy Jr., Ryan Wright, and running back Aaron Jones. There's more of lesser name value, but let's start there. We call it Dealer's Choice, and it's courtesy of our marathon segment, Steve's Appliances and stevesappliances.com. Check out the website if you need any form of appliance, stevesappliances.com. deal up wherever you want. Where do you want to start with all of that? You're of the offensive bent, so
I'm going offense.
I'm willing to wager it's either Jordan Mason,
it's
Rondell
Jordan
Moore,
Mason.
Tim
Stop
Jones.
now.
Give it to us.
2-year deal. Jordan Mason is going to have a big impact on this team, and I think we're going to have something much closer to a 50-50 timeshare than last year's backups, Cam Akers and Ty Chandler, were able to get. Mason is the power back this team hasn't had in a long time. Averaged 5.5 yards per carry in his career with the Niners.
They had it with Madison, but
not like this.
Mason has more wiggle and twitch than Madison. They're actually about the same size.
And he runs with more strength and can be more of a bulldozer than anybody we've had in years here.
Right.
Missed a lot of last year with shoulder and ankle injuries. But would have gotten and did get a lot of time. Christian McCaffrey went down. Mason was the next man up, but then he got dinged up. Mason this is going to be a much more effective 1-2 punch than last year. Aaron Jones is very good. We know what we're getting from him, but you know what you don't get from Aaron Jones? It's 3rd down and 2, and we have to get the 2 yards. He's not built with the strength. Aaron Jones is not that guy.
Remember, they have offensive line upgrades too that play into that.
They do.
It's with Aaron, and you know this from fantasy football. Aaron late in the season was like he was leaving games. So it's not like questionable. Oh, he's out and everybody in the world knows it and they can start somebody else in their super special fantasy league.
Yeah.
It's he was toughing things up, getting into games, and then either missing large portions of games or just not returning. So I think I think with a different mindset in certain situations and maybe some different offensive linemen, which they have, you can get that with Jones, but I understand what you're saying.
I want to have a power back at the goal line when you've got all the beef on the defense that's right at the line of scrimmage. Right. I want somebody strong enough to move the pile forward a yard or two, and that's where Jordan Mason's going to be helpful. And you're right. This is going to be a little bit like the Packers tried to do with Aaron Jones and did a lot, where it was very much a 1-2 punch with Quadzilla. With the Packers, I think they're going to.
Boston College kid, what's his name? The beef eater.
Yeah, darn it,
right.
I should know this. They'll keep Aaron Jones healthier, fewer reps. Hopefully, he'll be more productive with the reps that he does get. And Jordan Mason is going to be a big part of it.
Okay, now with Mason, it's. I mean, I spent 3 or 4 days in amazement just because it's again, and I've said this before. Nobody is calling him a cross between Roger Craig, Marshawn Lynch, and Charles White. Okay, we're not saying that. But we're saying, as accomplished as he is and what he's done and what it's proven he can do.
Yeah.
It's when you have what I deem to be a rather insignificant pick swap this year, and then you give a 6th rounder next year, it almost, I mean, Kwesi used to work with the Niners before he went to the Browns, before he got here. It's almost like the Niners did us a solid here. Now they like Guerrero.
Yep.
The backup, and he'll make significantly less than Jordan, and Jordan ain't making a ton. I'm still baffled that we were able to get a backup, a bruising running back of this quality for that type of compensation.
Agreed. Virtually almost free, not quite free, but almost free.
Right.
And I'm happy to get Jordan Mason. He's going to be a big part of this. Let's talk Darnold and Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of us were surprised that Sam Darnold went elsewhere. We expected J.J. McCarthy to get the job and be the starter. So I don't think either of us were surprised. I did not have Seattle going into the season. Of course, I didn't have Seattle as a destination because we assumed that they were good with Geno Smith. They decided not to follow up on Geno Smith, traded him to the Raiders. Raiders subsequently extended Geno Smith, which I didn't see the need to do that now, but I guess they did. And Sam Darnold goes to a team where he has got far less complementary talent in Seattle than
especially
he had
with
here.
DK gone.
DK gone, a genuinely bad offensive line. I mean, the Seattle offensive line is going to be a real problem for Sam Darnold. And we saw at the end of the season where Darnold unraveled with serious pressure from serious pressure. He was at his absolute worst. I don't know that this is going to be a great landing spot for Sam. I wish him well, and I hope it is a great spot for him. But I don't love the move for Darnold. We had assumed Daniel Jones would come back to Minnesota, and I think he would have, except the Colts, I believe, told Daniel Jones it's an open competition. They haven't seen enough from Anthony Richardson for the Colts to go, well, it's Anthony Richardson's job, obviously.
Right.
Richardson's a 50% completion quarterback in the 14-ish NFL games that he's played. Richardson just hasn't gotten better. And Daniel Jones took the path knowing that he was going to be a backup here. He took his shot to go be a starter someplace. I would have loved to have had him as our backup. The Vikings still don't have an adequate backup. But I can understand why Daniel Jones left, because if his chance to reboot his career and someday get a $100 million contract comes from another $100 million contract, right, comes from Daniel Jones getting on the field and proving himself to be a capable NFL starter for another team besides the Giants.
Let's stop there before you deal up another card on the Friday Football Feast. The Jones jetting to the Colts. That is the single biggest reason all of the Aaron Rodgers talk began.
No doubt.
And I'm not going to speak for the team, but if I were to say there were certain members that were surprised that he left, that happened, because matching the money situation, I don't believe was a problem. I like how you laid that out. It's Daniel's reading between the lines here, and you're all in on this kid.
Yeah. God
bless the kid. But when Daniel left the Giants and was here on the practice squad, basically think about at one time a high-end equine athlete being turned out at a Lexington farm. Just stay on the practice squad and learn this and learn that, and let's mentally turn yourself out and get you out of that concrete jungle rigmarole that you just left. But obviously no guarantees, whether there were handshakes or not. Like, no, I got you next year. I'm, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Whatever. So Jones goes. I agree with all the, with all the reasoning that you laid out there, because he does have a better chance to win the job in Indianapolis than he does here. So now, like Case Keenum signed yesterday with the Chicago Bears. It's Cooper Rush is in Baltimore. I mean, this guy's over there. Nick Mullins is a Jaguar, and Arizona got Jacoby Brissett, and so these backup names, they've been sprinkled throughout the conversation for about the last 3.5 weeks, all over the NFL, with the exception of Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
And old Joe Flacco, like when all this went down and we were talking about veteran backups, man, this is about 3.5 weeks ago. That was like my first choice. I'm like, why not Joe Flacco? That's cool, man. I mean, a couple of years ago when they lost Cousins at Lambeau, and now all of a sudden, I think you give up a seventh or something, you get Dobbs. The Dobbs trick had an expiration date, clearly. And then after that, you got Jaron Hall. Well, that had a little bit of an expiration date that year, too. And you had Nick Mullins. And Mullins would go for high 300 yards-ish, low 400 yards-ish. The offense looked fluid. It looked like the O'Connell offense, people running, being thrown open, things like that. But then you would have awful picks at just the worst time of the fourth quarter of a tight game. So that had a threshold, not an expiration date. But Grant Udinski, who was kind of the right-hand man to O'Connell, a very smart, gifted young man, well, he just went and became the coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right.
So he left, and Grant had a lot to do with raising these quarterbacks with the rest of the offensive staff. So now, with all that known, like through the whole common thread, Joe Flacco, if he had been here, like in the Dobbs year, I think we would have won.
You're right.
I think we would have won more games.
For sure.
And Stefanski, they went through 5 quarterbacks that year and somehow made the playoffs. And Flacco saved the whole thing for them. All right, so he's 40. Now, old people don't want to run. So therefore, you got Kelly and you got Fries. You'll get Darisaw back. Nice Minnesota moving company. You got the 1-2 running back bitch you talked about. So Flacco ain't going to run you out of trouble if he's here. But, I mean, you put him on a 5 or 7 step drop and they protect, it's going to be on time. It's going to be on time wherever you need it, which I just think is a wonderful, wonderful asset to have as the guy behind the kid who they're raising. Mm-hmm. So Flacco is still available. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah joined 9 to noon Monday. We had O'Connell and the GM on that day. And I asked Kwesi about the importance of having, if you're interested in a veteran backup, is there importance having the individual here for off-season workouts or organized team activities? And he's like, paraphrasing, yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, it's, but it's not like you can't get around it. Organized team activities don't begin until May. Off-season workouts begin late April. So that's where that whole thing is. Maybe there are names out there that I'm looking at that don't necessarily do anything for me, that kind of have you interested, because Cousins he's kind of the name.
That's what I was going to come around to.
He's the name that's hovering here. Yep. And there was an aggressive story earlier this week at ProFootballTalk.com where Arthur Blank and Kirk Cousins, they're just being direct. Where it's like, Blank, I mean, I can find the story, but Blank's like, you got the money, okay? You know the situation here. And Kirk's like, okay, well, by this date or this date, if the situation is like this, well, then here's what I want, which could be waiving no trades and stuff like that.
Yep.
So this thing 3 weeks in front of the draft, man, 20 days in front of the first round of the draft, this Cousins covenant in Atlanta is starting to get ugly.
Yep.
So something's going to happen here. You can pragmatically take the low-hanging fruit, and it may be succulent, and say, well, they have him under contract, and it's nobody's business or nobody should care what they're paying their backup quarterback. If you take the two salaries of Penix and Cousins and look at the totality of the quarterbacks, maybe that's a little more pleasing for you.
It's not as bad.
It's not as bad. But then that PFT story, and I'm going to find it, here in a second, where just reading between the lines of the quotes here, it's starting to get nasty down in Flowery Branch between the owner and the quarterback. And this all emerged at the owner's meetings.
I think it always has been. I think that thing soured early last year between Kirk and ownership there. Now, destinations for Kirk get interesting. You're the Browns.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter are the best players available, but they're not quarterbacks. Your Browns picking at 2, right? Cam Ward's going to go 1 to Tennessee. I think that's a done deal. You're 2. Would you rather have the dynamic stylings of Travis Hunter and Kirk Cousins, or and Kirk could be your bridge to whoever your future young quarterback is?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have to take a quarterback that maybe you don't love? Maybe you don't love Shedeur Sanders, for whatever reason.
Okay, what if you're Kirk and Pittsburgh still hasn't opened?
Right.
I mean, supposedly it's Pittsburgh. Is this absolutely done deal? You saw Aaron Rodgers recently, I think, in California playing catch with DK Metcalf. And so, yeah, I mean, that actually matters.
So, but I think your concern if you're Kirk about Pittsburgh is... Are you going to replay last year? Is Pittsburgh going to take Jackson Dart in the first round at pick 21? And now here you are again as the presumed starter for the Steelers. Yep. And then there's a first round pick who's going to come usurp you again and make you look like a fool again.
Yep.
That would be some of the concern.
I found the story for context.
Okay.
ProFootballTalk.com, middle of the week. Raheem Morris, coach of the Falcons, talking about the Cuzbuzz and the offseason program, which begins soon. I'm not going to be foolish to think that he's going to show up for voluntary works right now. We're dealing with a business type mode right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll be there. If he is, we'll welcome him with open arms, but I'm not going to be fool enough to make myself get worked up and angry about Kirk Cousins missing voluntary workouts. All right. So then Raheem said, we invested in Kirk last year. We invested in some major way. Right now, we feel really strong about him being our backup quarterback. Okay. And things he can do for us. Cousins has made it clear he wants to compete for a starting job. That means waiving his no trade clause, something he reportedly will wait until after the draft before doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
because he wants to find out which teams are going to take a quarterback and which aren't.
Yeah. See, let me find another story. There was I think an Albert Breer report here, basically saying that making it sound like doomsday with him staying there.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk making it seem like Kirk doesn't want to be caught off guard again here. I mean, honestly, if you as a business, you do not have to let the quarterback you just gave all the money know exactly what's going to happen in the draft. But it also can't be him driving to a draft party at the stadium, hearing Rich Eisen say it on the radio.
Right.
And then him like, what? Wait, they're talking, what? Okay, it can't be that either. No. I mean, you have to give a little lean that we may, and we're not going to show you the board because everybody talks, especially the agents, but this could happen. Kirk wants to avoid that. I'm going to find this story because Arthur Blank was aggressive.
Think about for whatever you do and do not like about Kirk. I don't think anybody would have expected there'd be a scenario where he'd bail on OTAs, which granted you don't have to go to, but everybody does. And especially with all the money that Kirk's gotten, he's never been somebody who's waived, been somebody who's created a bunch of waves with weird decisions. And, he's always been a stand-up guy in terms of supporting his team.
Yeah.
It tells you how totally fractured the relationship is between the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, that he wouldn't, and given all the money he's making, that Kirk feels like he can't go to organized team activities. And it's his right not to go, but keep in mind, almost everybody goes almost all the time. Mm-hmm. So it tells you things are particularly bad.
Yeah, Blank. We spoke for about an hour. I told Kirk that I'm really here to listen. I took 5 pages of notes, made some comments back, shared some thoughts I had from the franchise's standpoint. So he's getting businessy here. Mm-hmm. It could not have been a more cordial, more respectful conversation. Doesn't surprise me. I heard everything he said. I understand everything he said. And he also understood where we were as a team and as a franchise. Mm-hmm. So I think it created clarity about what he hoped for, what his views were, and what happened and why it happened with the Penix situation. So that is like a cloud that is hovering above this Vikings backup backup quarterback situation. Because Blank and/or Morris basically were they did not rule out, we're running a business. Now, this has to add up for the business too.
Yeah.
So they didn't rule it out, but I don't know what add up to the business means, because ain't nobody paying a backup 25% of whatever he's owed or whatever he got. You know what I mean?
Okay, so is there a pathway to Kirk Cousins coming here as a backup?
Well, if there is,
I think there is.
I'm a fan of it.
I am too. Obviously,
in knowing Kirk as well as we do, mm-hmm. I have zero doubt that he not only would help, and he's smart, but he's self-aware. So I think he would understand what his lot in life is, and he would not be the one. See, that's like one thing with Rodgers that just kind of bugged me about the whole thing, because if McCarthy is out there and has think Darnold at Jacksonville last year.
Yeah.
Darnold got a little better in the Tennessee game, but he still threw too many for my taste right to the Titans, but they dropped him. If that happens, I think Cousins is less likely than a Rodgers to be in the side of the locker room on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday being JJ, I get that to you, right?
Right.
Jordan, I know you don't talk much, but when you do, I'd like to have a conversation with you. And that A gets to B, gets to C, gets to D, man. And I got you, dog. Just the chance of things happening like that. I don't think they're prevalent with Cousins.
All right. So Cousins only has 2 landing spots left if he wants to be a starter.
Yep.
Pittsburgh, maybe Cleveland. That's probably it. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is pretty much set at quarterback for this year.
Yep.
And Tennessee's going to take Cam Ward. So if those dry up.
You think Tennessee takes Cam Ward?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if those dry up. Now Kirk knows he's going to be a backup somewhere, and he doesn't want to be in Atlanta. That the relationship's totally fractured. Why not come to Minnesota? If you're going to be a backup anyway, why not come here?
Well, because the trade has to work out for both sides.
Yes, it does.
And I think Blank's going to get tough on this, because I think he knows that from a business standpoint, he kind of embarrassed himself with the way this whole thing worked out. And I don't think he wants to embarrass himself twice.
I don't think he's in a position where he'd be embarrassing himself. He'd be getting out of a bad contract, just resetting that relationship. Okay. Everybody knows it's sour.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Now, financially, I don't have all of the details, for what Kirk would have to get paid and what the financial implications of the trade and all of that. But It sounds like there's a scenario where that trade can get done. Vikings are currently $17 million under the cap. There's room to do it. And if you can get Kirk would have to redo his deal. Obviously, you can't keep the deal he's got. But right. I could see Kirk coming here on a 2-year, $10 to $15 million a year deal as the backup behind JJ, where he knows he's the backup. That's 100% locked in.
That
Kirk would understand that. That might be too much for the Vikings. It's possible.
It might be too much.
Next year, Vikings got cap trouble coming.
Well, see, and that's the point. I mean, you might be able to get Flo Jacko. You might be able to get the veteran who was a Super Bowl MVP. What if you can get him for like 7? Maybe. I mean, what if he's like 5 or 7 or something like that, for like a year?
And at this point,
ain't nobody signing Joe Flacco to a 2-year deal.
No way. No, not at his age. And Kirk's younger, but I don't think the distinction between their ability set is all that great right now. The Kirk we saw last year looked a lot like Joe Flacco, I thought. Flacco's way easier. It costs you nothing to acquire him. You don't have to give up anything in a trade.
Yeah. And
he'd be cheaper. So that's a more plausible angle.
And they like Brett Rippon, by the way. Now, I'm not going to say that they like him to make him the 2, and be like, okay, well, if the kid has another weird injury that happens during a game and like nobody knows it happened and can't seem to figure out where it happened, well, then we're just going to roll it with him. That's not a 0. It's the underdog. It's the long shot. It's not a 0, and it's in the gate. It's in the starting gate of this conversation.
There's a chance. The fact that Brett Rippon continues to stay on this roster whenever, and remember, we carried 4 quarterbacks for a while.
Yeah, to keep him.
Because this team wanted to keep Brett Rippon. They love him here. So yeah, there's they must obviously think that he's got some kind of long-term potential that we don't get to see because we never see him on the field.
PA and Charch feasting on a Friday.
Oh my God, Kirko, chill.
Back after this.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Finally, with this Charchy Covenant catch-up after a month and a half away in Utah, revitalizing things, regenerating things, and coming up for air, Alec Lewis joins in studio about 15 minutes from now. NFL Draft, 20 days from today, Vikes at 24. Take it from there.
I think there's a 60% chance the Vikings trade that pick. There's just not enough equity. We just don't have enough picks. 24, I don't know that the difference between the player you get at 24 would be all that different than the player you'd get at 34. So it feels like this could be a tricky draft party for us, Paul.
Meaning
we got to wait till pick 24.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be waiting quite a while anyway. We're going to be, for pick 24, it'll be about 10 o'clock when the Vikings come up?
Yeah, a little
roughly,
earlier.
A little in that ballpark.
Yeah.
And then it's how far down do they go?
Mm-hmm.
Do we stay in the first round? Do we get out of the first round? Their advantage staying in the first round, like you get that fifth year where you can designate your guy and there's reason to stay, but with only 4 selections and just not enough equity in this draft, I feel like the Vikings move down.
Let's start at the baseline. Okay, so 24. Not now, but and we've gone back and forth with it. What they have done, what they believe they have fortified through a majority of free agency. Okay, so because I make. At 24, or right around there, I make offensive linemen. I make that favored. What's going on, YA? Offensive linemen favored. After that, you got defensive line, but like the 3 technique defensive tackle bit, and then corner. Okay? Defensive back could be a safety. So I have O-line first.
Yep.
D-line second. DB third. Are you in lockstep with that? And good morning.
I got DB first.
Okay.
I've got cornerback number 1. I feel like that is to me, that's the highest priority.
Yep. He just got back from Utah, weird garments, secret handshakes, all that kind of stuff. Give him a minute, Alec. Go ahead.
Several wives. I've heard I heard all the jokes. To the best of my mind, I didn't meet anybody that seemed to have more than one wife, but don't really know. I feel like cornerback is the remaining biggest position of need. So right now, this team is starting either Mekhi Blackmon or Jeff Okudah as a starter.
No, Isaiah Rodgers.
Well, okay, but you start 3 most
Byron
plays.
Murphy Jr.
Byron Murphy's going to be 1, right? Okay, so we got Byron Murphy, we got Isaiah Rodgers, right? We need a third cornerback.
Yep,
those are effectively starters. I don't feel like we don't know. Maybe Mekhi Blackmon's going to be great, but we don't have any reason to know that for sure. Maybe Jeff Okudah is going to reverse everything that we've seen through 4 or 5 years in the league as he's bounced around 3 teams in 3 years. Maybe those things will happen. I think cornerback is as big a need as any.
I think Alec got a little tan in West Palm Beach. But anyway, go ahead.
I don't know, not much. I mean, it still looks kind of pasty.
Why you got to tear the kid down? I told you to leave that in Utah, okay? First thing he does is he comes back and he says, "Is everything okay between you and Alec?" I'm like, "Stop!"
Yeah, there was some dust up.
No, there wasn't a dust up.
There was a dust up.
No, there wasn't.
Sure looked like it.
No, there wasn't. You're welcome to jump in anytime.
From 1,500 miles away.
Am I allowed to talk yet?
Looked like a dust up.
I mean, your time's 11:03. Do you have a card key to get in here now?
Yeah, how did you?
Key status?
No, but I've got other sources in the building.
That was brilliant.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to keep listening to the
anytime.
No, I want to keep listening.
Okay.
DB.
So you need safety. I mean, for obvious reasons, right?
They re-signed Theo Jackson. Did you know that?
I did, man. Okay. But okay, and maybe, and I know there are people in the building that are really optimistic about his long-term future, and maybe that's part of why they let Cam Bynum go.
Right, but I mean, just brushing off the that's what some said about Josh Metellus.
We love Josh Metellus, but also Metellus, though. But also, I mean, Metellus is not a pure safety. He's a hybrid guy who plays all over the field.
Maybe the next guy will be too.
Maybe so. I think safety is an area of significant need, in my opinion. Theo Jackson has
Sherwin-Williams stock up $6 in 1 hour.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Theo Jackson only had 79 snaps last year, 222 in his career.
A.J. Dillon was the name that we missed an hour ago.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Thank you.
Covenant cleanup right there.
Yep. Thank you, Eastsider. Thank you, Johnny.
You mentioned offensive line guard. I think, I still feel like this team can get better at guard. Blake, and I'm not knocking Blake Brandel. He had the 14th worst pressure rate among guards last year. Pro Football Focus ranked him as the 55th best guard. So I think that I'm with you on offensive line. Gray Zabel is going to be a guard, right? Mm-hmm. And based on everything that we've learned about him, even though he's 6'6", which makes him an extraordinarily tall guard.
Yeah.
That's how he's projecting in the NFL at guard, right?
That's what they said about Kelechi Osemele. I always loved that one.
Yeah, you remember him. Yeah, he was good for a long time. So
Gray
Zabel, I think he'd be in play for the Vikings, but
you ain't getting him at 24.
You don't think so? Why not?
Because his coach, Tim Polasek, North Dakota State University.
I heard your interview with him a couple days ago.
Well, I mean, he's not going to say, I don't think Gray's worthy at 24. He's not going to say that. But the way he said, because Mr. Polasek, one season for the Bison, won a championship. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But a decade and change ago, he was the offensive coordinator for the Bison when Carson Wentz was the quarterback. And he said, now Carson Wentz, second, third, fourth, something like that. He said, this reminds me of this time of the year with Wentz a decade ago, where the majority of the people had him, kind of slotted at a certain spot.
Yep.
And then you just knew it was ascending. You just knew it wasn't going to be there, and it was moving on up. He feels that now, certainly not, hey, everybody has him 21 to 30. It's going to go 2. No, it's not that. But it's the same vibe in that it's kind of dreamy if you think, in the mid-20s, that from what I think, I would assume from what he's hearing with the people with whom he chats, because the GMs and the coaches are all calling him, that Zabel probably could be in the teens.
Well, it could be. And I think you have to decide, do you want the position flexibility that he gives you? Yeah. That's something that some teams are really going to covet in Gray Zabel.
Right.
Because he only ever played left tackle. But the belief is that he can play guard at this level, but he gives you the flexibility of doing both. And there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to covet that. And if you start to look at the bottom half of the first round, you've got all of these great quarterbacks who need protection and improvements at offensive line. Houston at 25. I mean, their offensive line, brutal last year, and they cut a bunch of people. That's an excellent potential landing spot for Gray Zabel that would have him one pick after the Vikings.
Alec went to the home of a cornerback from Texas. First name begins with J. I think that story's coming out sometime before the draft. And the guy basically said, I want to play for the Vikings.
I always love that one.
Keep that in mind from a subterfuge standpoint.
He said he wants to play for the Vikings.
And that last comment was sponsored by Sherwin-Williams and the stock tout I gave earlier. Did you hear my stock tout?
No.
The market yesterday was rough.
I heard.
There are people that are going to be looking for depressed stocks.
Sure.
And I suggested Sherwin-Williams. Because with the way the stock market went yesterday, can you imagine how much paint's going to be purchased today to tatter those Teslas?
I always love it.
Those fools are just going to be those idiots are going to be going nuts today. They're going to be buying them by the gallon.
I'm not
by the barrel.
I don't know if I want to participate.
You might not want to. You may not want to be a part of this.
The Gray Zabel conversation is much more my speed.
Maybe so. I was worried that he was encouraging huffing, but I don't think that is where we're going with this at all.
I don't know what huffing is.
I don't either. But I don't want to talk about it at all.
No, you probably don't.
Charch,
as a matter of fact.
We've nearly made it 2 hours without arguing one time or without you bugging me one time. So let's please not tease Alec for huffing. Okay, and being whatever part of that is.
Known huffer.
He's a known huffer.
I'm surprised you're not at Colorado Pro Day today.
Why would I be there?
I don't know.
I don't need to see Jimmy Horn Jr. to know what he can do on the punt return when he ends up here.
That's a good comment.
Jimmy Horn Jr., I got all his albums.
That's a good comment.
Alec, you with me? I said 60% chance Vikings trade out of pick 24.
Save it.
Okay.
And we will lead with that when we return.
I like that tease.
With Alec Lewis from The Athletic, one of our very favorites. And the highly successful and wildly controversial Alec Lewis Show podcast. Alec joins us around the corner on KFAN.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.